The desert stretched far and endless under to pale moons. Sand shifted like waves, whispering against Ethan's boots as he walked alone. His canteen was nearly empty. His throat burned. He had not seen another living soul for days, only ruins, broken stone, and silence. Then he heard it, a voice. It was faint at first, like the wind carried it. But no, this was different. It trembled. It broke. It sounded desperate. "Save me, human." Ethan froze. His hand went to the knife at his belt. He scanned the dunes, the jagged rocks, the crumbled pillars of some dead civilization. No one. Only the hiss of shifting sand. Again, the voice came, this time louder, this time shaking. "Please save me." It wasn't just a sound. It carried fear. It carried pain. And it called him by name, human. Ethan's heart pounded. His mind screamed to turn back, to leave. But his feet moved forward, slow and careful. The moonlight guided him toward a cluster of broken statues half buried in the sand. There, among the ruins, he saw her, chains, iron shackles dug into pale blue skin. She was on her knees, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, her lips trembling. She looked weak, broken, but not ordinary. She was alien. Her features sharper, her form more delicate, almost otherworldly. Beautiful. When she saw him, her body jolted with hope. "Human," her voice cracked. "Save me before they come back." Ethan crouched, studying the chains. They were old, carved with symbols he couldn't read. Strange runes glowed faintly along the iron. The air around them hummed, like the metal was alive. "Who did this to you?" Ethan whispered. Her lips quivered. She looked toward the horizon, where shadows danced against firelight. Drums began to echo, slow and heavy, carried by the wind. "Boom, boom, boom." "They are coming," she said, her voice breaking. "The ritual begins tonight." Ethan frowned. "Ritual?" Her silver eyes filled with tears. "No one survives it. No one." The drums grew louder. Ethan's chest tightened. He glanced at the girl, then at the approaching fire. He didn't even know her name, but the way her voice trembled, it pulled at him. "Hold still." He muttered, pulling his knife. He tried to wedge it under the chain, but the metal sparked, burning his blade. The runes glowed brighter. He hissed in pain, jerking his hand back. She shook her head weakly. "You can't break it. It is bound to the altar. They chained me for the offering." Her words sent a chill down his spine. "Offering? To who?" Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. She only whispered, "Run, human. If they find you, you'll be taken to. The ritual demands to." The drums pounded harder, faster. Ethan could see torches now, dozens of them, swaying in the night. Strange voices chanted, harsh and deep. Shadows moved like waves of soldiers. Across the sand, Ethan's jaw tightened. His instinct screamed to leave, but his chest burned with something else, rage. He couldn't just walk away. He grabbed her wrist. Her skin was cold, trembling under his grip. "I'm not leaving you." Her eyes widened. "You don't understand." The chanting grew louder, closer. The first figures appeared, tall and cloaked, their faces hidden behind bone masks. They carried spears tipped with black stone that glowed faint red. The girl gasped, trying to pull back, but the chains clanged, holding her in place. "It's too late," she whispered, voice shaking. "They've found us." Ethan's heart thundered. He pulled her closer, crouching low among the ruins as the masked hunters spread out, circling the statues. Their chanting rose like a storm. "Don't make a sound," Ethan whispered. Her breath shook against his chest. Her chains rattled softly, like cruel bells. One hunter stopped near them, tilting his head as if listening. Ethan held his breath. His hand gripped the knife tight, though he knew it would be useless against so many. The hunter leaned closer, sniffing the air. The glowing eyes of the bone mask swept the ruins. For a heartbeat, Ethan thought they were caught. But then the horn blew, a long, deep, dreadful sound. The hunter turned and raised his spear. The rest followed, their voices joining in the chant. Together they marched toward the altar only a short distance from where Ethan hid. The girl clutched his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. Her lips trembled. "If they see you with me, they'll bind you too. You'll be the second sacrifice." Ethan's mind raced. to sacrifices, to victims. That was why her voice shook so badly. She hadn't only feared her death, she had feared dragging him into it. The ground trembled as the chanting grew louder. The air filled with smoke. Ethan swallowed hard, his hand tightening on his knife. He looked at the girl, at her trembling lips, at the tears running down her pale cheeks, at the way she whispered, broken and afraid, "Save me, human." The hunters raised their spears, torches lighting the sky. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had a choice: flee into the desert or step into a nightmare. And as the shadows closed in, he whispered back to her, steady and certain, "I'll save you." The horn's echo rolled across the desert like thunder. Ethan felt the girl flinch. Against him, her chains rattling softly. The hunters were close now to close. Their shadows moved across the ruins like crawling beasts, torches spitting sparks into the night sky. Boom, boom, boom. The drums beat in rhythm with Ethan's heartbeat. Each thud pressed heavier on his chest, warning him that time was running out. He scanned the ruins. No cover, no escape. The hunters knew this place. They were driving them toward the altar. The girl's silver eyes shimmered with tears. "Once they see me, it's over," she whispered. "Run. Human, please." But Ethan shook his head. "Not leaving you." A new sound rose with the chant, a low hum, like the air itself was alive. The runes carved into her chains flickered brighter, responding to the rhythm. Her body shuddered. She let out a sharp gasp as the metal pulled tighter round her wrists. "They're calling the chains," she cried softly. "They can feel me. They know where I am." Ethan cursed under his breath. The glow around her shackles grew stronger, painting her skin in cruel red light. The hunters turned as one, their masked faces pointing straight toward the ruins. They had found them. The chanting grew louder, faster. The hunters began to circle. Some struck their spears against the sand, sending sparks into the night. Others pounded the drums strapped to their chests. The rhythm was no longer steady, it was rising, building, like a storm about to break. The girl gripped Ethan's sleeve with shaking hands. "Don't let them touch me. If they take me to the altar, I won't come back." Ethan's jaw clenched. He rose slowly, pulling her with him. The knife in his hand felt small, useless against dozens of spears, but he would not let her go quietly. The first hunter stepped forward, his bone mask glinting in the firelight. He pointed his spear at Ethan and spoke in a voice that rattled the ruins. "The human answers the call. The circle is complete." The girl whimpered. Ethan's gut twisted. He understood too well. He wasn't just caught. He had been chosen. 2 sacrifices. The ritual demanded 2. The hunters surged forward, spears leveled. Ethan slashed with his knife, forcing them back for a heartbeat, but the circle closed around them. Torches lit the sky, and their chant filled the desert. Blood to bind, blood to wake, blood for the altar. Hands grabbed him, rough and strong. He fought, kicking, slashing, but there were too many. A spear butt slammed against his chest, knocking the breath from his lungs. Beside him, the girl screamed as chains dragged her forward, pulling her toward the waiting altar of stone. She stumbled, resisting, her voice shaking as she cried out, "No, please, not again." Ethan's head spun as they forced him to his knees. His arms were pinned, his knife wrenched from his grip. The hunter's chant pounded in his ears, faster, louder, until it was all he could hear. They shoved him beside the girl. Her silver eyes locked onto his. She was trembling, pale, terrified, but also angry. Angry that he was here, angry that he hadn't run. "Why didn't you leave?" she whispered, tears streaking her face. Ethan gritted his teeth. "Because I won't watch you die." The hunters slammed their spears into the sand as one. Sparks flew. Smoke rose from the cracks in the earth. The altar ahead of them glowed faintly, runes crawling across its surface like living fire. The leader of the hunters raised his arms. His mask was larger, sharper, crowned with horns. His voice carried above the chant, "Tonight the beast awakens. Tonight the offering is made." The crowd roared. The girl collapsed against Ethan, her chains rattling violently. She shook her head, whispering broken words. "It will kill us both. No one survives." Ethan stared at the altar, at the smoke rising from the ground, at the way the stone pulsed like a beating heart. Fear coiled in his chest, cold and heavy. But when he looked at her, trembling and hopeless, something hardened inside him. Then tonight, he said quietly, things change. The hunters dragged them forward. The chant rose higher. The altar waited. And as Ethan's knees hit the blood-stained stone, the ground itself began to crack open. The altar pulsed like it was alive. Each rune burned brighter, crawling across the stone as if written by invisible fire. Smoke hissed up from the cracks, and the air grew heavy with a smell like burning blood. Ethan felt the stone tremble beneath his knees. He had been in battles before, but never had the ground itself seemed to breathe. The hunters surrounded them, their torches raised high. Their chanting grew faster, words pounding like war drums. Blood to bind, blood to wake, blood to feed, the leader of the hunters raised his horned mask toward the moons and spread his arms wide. The offering begins. The girl's chains tightened suddenly, jerking her forward until she sprawled against the altar. Her cry pierced the chant. Ethan tried to pull her back, but the glowing iron resisted him. Burning his hands, her silver eyes met his, filled with terror. It's here, it's waking. Ethan looked down. The altar's center was splitting. A thin crack widened, glowing red from within. The heat that poured out burned his face. Something was moving in the darkness below. The hunters fell silent. The only sound was the earth cracking, the stone groaning, the fire rising. And then he heard it. A growl, low, endless, like the voice of something that should never exist. The girl shook her head, sobbing. No one survives this, human, no one. The ground beneath the altar ripped apart. A claw black and jagged, larger than Ethan's body, burst from the crack. It gripped the stone, crushing it. Another claw followed, then the outline of something enormous, dragging itself up from the pit of fire. The beast rose. Its body was smoke and bone, its eyes like burning coals, its teeth gleamed like swords, dripping fire. The air trembled with each step it took, the desert itself shaking under its weight. The hunters cheered wildly, slamming their spears into the ground. Their chant rose again, stronger, like they were feeding the creature with their voices. Devour, devour, devour. The girl sobbed, clutching Ethan's arm. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. It chooses. One will die, one will live. That is the law of the offering. Ethan's stomach twisted. He finally understood. They hadn't just brought him here to die. The beast demanded the victims, but only one would be taken. The other would crawl away. Cursed to remember. The creature's burning eyes locked onto them. It sniffed the air, smoke curling from its nostrils. It stepped closer, claws raking the stone, sparks flying with each move. The girl turned to Ethan, her voice trembling. If you fight, it will take us both. You must let it choose me. You must survive. Ethan stared at her. She was broken, chained, and terrified. She was ready to give herself to save him, but something inside him rebelled at the thought. He clenched his fists. No, I won't let it take you. The beast roared, shaking the altar. The sound hit like a wave, pressing against Ethan's chest, rattling his bones. The hunters threw their heads back, cheering louder. The girl screamed. As her chains pulled her closer to the edge of the altar, the crack beneath glowed brighter, as if calling her down. Ethan lunged forward, catching her before she slipped. Her voice broke as she cried into his shoulder. Why are you doing this? Why won't you run? Ethan gritted his teeth, staring at the towering monster before them. Because I don't run. Not from beasts, not from men. Not when someone needs me. The beast lowered its head, growling deep, its eyes fixed on Ethan now. The hunter's chant shifted. The human, the human, the human. The air grew heavier. Ethan could feel that the beast was deciding. His grip on the girl tightened. He would not let go. The altar glowed brighter. The crack widened. The beast opened its jaws, fire spilling from its throat. The girl screamed. Ethan roared back at the creature, his voice cutting through the chant. And then the altar shook violently, as if the earth itself was rebelling. The beast lunged forward, claws crashing down. Toward them both. The beast's claws smashed against the altar, stone exploding into shards. The hunters roared with triumph, their chants shaking the night. Fire poured from the cracks beneath, turning the desert air into choking heat. Ethan shielded the girl with his body. The claws struck inches from them, the shockwave throwing him onto his back. His ears rang, dust filling his mouth, but he refused to let go of her. The monster rose higher, pulling its massive body out of the pit. Its chest was a furnace of glowing ribs, its arms bone and smoke woven together. Its head turned slowly, as though savoring the fear around it. Every step made the ground tremble like thunder. The girl clutched Ethan's arm, her voice breaking. "You can't fight it, you can't." But Ethan's eyes locked on the creature. His heart pounded. His body screamed to run, yet he stayed. "Everything can bleed," he muttered. The hunters cheered louder, some striking their masks with their spears until sparks flew. To them, this was not terror, it was glory. They had seen dozens thrown onto this altar, all crushed, all devoured. Tonight, they expected the same, but tonight was different. The beast leaned closer, lowering its skull-like head until its burning eyes hovered just above Ethan. It inhaled, and the pull of its breath nearly dragged him into its jaws. Smoke coiled around his body, searing his skin, tasting his fear. The girl sobbed, shaking her head. "It feeds on fear. Don't look at it. Don't." Ethan clenched his fists. His fear screamed inside him, but he shoved it down, burying it deep. He glared into the beast's fiery eyes and shouted, "You're not taking her." The crowd hushed. Even the hunters froze for a heartbeat. No one had ever spoken to the creature. No one had ever defied it. The beast's head tilted. Its burning eyes narrowed. Curious, smoke curled tighter around Ethan, testing him. When it found no fear, it let out a roar so loud the altar shook. Apart, Ethan staggered, but stood his ground. His knife gleamed weakly in his hand. Nothing compared to the monster towering over him. Still, he raised it. The girl gasped, tugging at his arm. "Please, stop. It will only get worse." The beast slammed a claw down. Ethan dove, pulling her with him. The stone cracked where they had stood, glowing molten at the edges. Sparks burned his clothes, but he gritted his teeth and pulled her behind a broken pillar. The hunters shouted angrily, their chant breaking into chaos. They demanded the beast finish it. They demanded blood. The monster obeyed. It lunged again, faster than something so huge should move. Ethan shoved the girl aside and rolled across the altar. The claw missed him by a breath, but the heat singed his arm, blistering his skin. Pain lanced through him, but he didn't stop. He snatched up a shard of broken stone, glowing from the altar's heat, and hurled it at the beast's face. It struck the creature's skull and shattered. Smoke hissed where it hit. The beast paused. The hunters gasped. The girl's eyes widened. "You heard it," she whispered. Ethan's chest heaved. His knife shook in his hand, but his voice was steady. "Then it can be killed." The monster roared, enraged, fire spilling from its chest. The force of it knocked hunters off their feet, torches flying into the sand. The desert echoed with screams and chaos. But Ethan only narrowed his eyes. He had fought men. He had fought wars. Now he would fight this nightmare. The girl crawled toward him, her chains rattling. "If you keep fighting, it will bind to you. It will make you part of the offering." Ethan pulled her close, shielding her again as another claw smashed. "Down, then let it try." The beast reared back, smoke twisting into new shapes, as if it were adapting. Its body shifted, bones cracking, smoke forming limbs that mimicked a man's. Slowly, it began to take a shape Ethan recognized. Its jaw stretched into a face, its shoulders narrowed, its hands reshaped, until, standing in the firelight before him was himself. The beast now wore Ethan's own form, burning eyes staring out of a perfect copy of his face. The girl's breath caught. "It has chosen you." Ethan's blood ran cold. His enemy was no longer a monster of smoke and bone. It was a reflection of himself, his strength, his fear, his will, and it stepped forward, raising a copy of his knife. The firelight danced, and Ethan saw himself standing across the altar. Same height, same face, same knife glinting in its hand. But the eyes, those weren't his. They burned red, alive with hunger. The girl gasped, pulling against her chains. "It takes your shape. It becomes what you fear most, yourself." Ethan's throat tightened. He didn't fear the beast. He feared failure. He feared weakness. He feared losing her. And now those fears stood before him, wearing his skin. The hunters chanted louder, stomping the ground in rhythm. They had never seen this before, but to them, it was glory. To Athens circling the altar, one real, one born of fire and smoke. The monster Ethan grinned. You cannot win, human. Its voice was his voice, only deeper, twisted with malice. I am you, without limits. I do not break. I do not die. Ethan raised his knife. His body shook from exhaustion, but his eyes were steady. Then let's find out. They clashed. The copy struck fast, faster than Ethan thought possible. Sparks flew as their blades collided. The impact numbed Ethan's arm, but he forced his muscles to hold. The double twisted, aiming for his ribs. Ethan barely dodged, the blade slicing his shirt open. The girl cried out, straining against her. Glowing chains. Stop, that feeds on the fight. Ethan grunted as he rolled back to his feet. Good. He spat, then let it choke. The monster lunged again, their knives flashing under the moonlight. They fought across the altar, stone, cracking beneath each strike. Ethan bled from shallow cuts, but the double showed no weakness. Each movement was flawless, a perfect mirror. Every time Ethan struck, the copy struck harder. Every time Ethan dodged, the copy was faster. Sweat burned his eyes, but he refused to give in. The hunters roared with approval, some dropping to their knees in worship. The air itself pulsed with energy, as though the altar fed on their struggle. The girl screamed above the noise, "You can't beat it by fighting yourself. You must be different from it." Her words sank into Ethan's mind even as the double pressed him harder. He realized she was right. The creature wasn't trying to kill him. It was trying to prove he was no different from the rest, just another victim to break. But he wasn't. Ethan blocked another slash, then kicked the double back. His chest heaved as he glared at it. "You're wrong," he said. His voice cut through the chant. "I do break. I bleed. I fall. But I get back up. That's what makes me human." The monster hissed, its face twisting, its burning eyes flaring. Ethan raised his knife again, blood dripping down his arm. "You can copy my body, but you'll never copy my will." The girl's silver eyes widened, hope flickering for the first time. The chains around her wrists sparked, straining against the glow. As if her belief was weakening the bond, the double lunged with a roar, bringing its blade down toward Ethan's heart. Ethan didn't dodge. He stepped into the strike. The blade slashed deep across his shoulder, pain exploding through him. But his free hand drove his own knife straight into the copy's chest. The crowd gasped. The double froze, its burning eyes flickered. Smoke spilled from its wound. Ethan shoved it back, his voice rough but defiant. "You don't get to be me." The monster staggered, its body unraveling. The flames that made its shape tore apart, twisting into the air. The knife in its hand dissolved. Its face melted into smoke. With one last shriek, the double collapsed into ash, scattering across the altar. The hunters howled in rage, their chant breaking into chaos. Some fell to their knees, others raised their spears as if unsure whether to strike or bow. The altar trembled violently, cracks racing across its surface. The runes pulsed faster, brighter, like the ritual itself was breaking. The girl collapsed, her chains loosening, glowing dim. Tears ran down her face as she stared at Ethan. No one has ever done that. "You should be dead." Ethan wiped the blood from his mouth, forcing himself to stand tall despite the wound in his shoulder. "Yeah," he rasped, "but I'm not." The ground split wider, flames spewing higher into the night sky. From deep within the crack, the beast's true roar shook the desert. The girl's face drained of color. "It's not over. That was only its shadow." Ethan tightened his grip on his knife. His body shook, every nerve screaming. But his eyes burned with fire. "Then I'll fight its true self," he said, steady as steel. The altar rumbled, and from the pit below, the beast began to rise again, this time larger, darker. No longer wearing his face. The altar shook like it would split apart. Smoke poured from the pit, flames twisting into shapes too large to belong in this world. The hunters dropped to their knees, raising their spears high, chanting in a frenzy. Blood for the altar, blood for the beast. Ethan stood wounded, his arm slick with blood, his breath ragged. but his knife was still in his hand. His eyes never left the pit. From the fire, the beast rose in its true form. Not smoke, not a shadow, flesh and bone laced with fire. Its skull-like face towered above them. Horns jagged like broken mountains. Its chest was a furnace of burning ribs. Its heart a molten ember that pulsed with hunger. The girl whimpered, chains dragging her closer to the center. This is it. It won't stop until one of us is gone. The leader of the hunters raised both hands. His voice thundered above the chaos. 2 lives were offered. 1 must remain. The beast will choose. The chanting stopped. Silence fell, heavy as stone. The only sound was the crackle of fire and the beast's growl. Its burning eyes swept between Ethan and the girl. It moved closer, its claws sinking deep into the altar stone, leaving glowing scars behind. The air stank of ash and death. The girl's silver eyes filled with tears. She leaned close, her voice breaking into a whisper. Don't fight at this. Time, let it take me. You're human. You don't belong here. You can escape. Ethan turned his head, meeting her gaze. Her face was pale, trembling, but her words carried resolve. She was ready to die to save him. His chest ached, not from the wound but from the thought. He clenched his jaw. No, I don't leave people behind. Not you. She shook her head wildly. You don't understand. If you resist, it will drag us both down. You'll die for nothing, the beast growled, lowering its massive head until its eyes hovered inches from Ethan. It inhaled, smoke swirling around him, pulling at his soul like a tide. He felt his chest grow cold, his strength fading. The leader shouted again, choose, human. Spill her blood and walk free or she will watch you die. The hunters cheered, their spears striking the ground in rhythm. The girl sobbed, pulling her wrists against the glowing chains until blood ran down her arms. Please don't make me watch you die. Ethan stared at her, then at the beast. He could feel the choice pressing against him like a knife to his throat. Kill her or be taken. But then, a thought burned inside him. He stepped forward, standing between the beast and the girl. His knife hung loose at his side, but his voice rang out strong. You don't get to choose. I do. The hunters gasped. Their leader snarled behind his mask. Defiance against the ritual. The altar flared, runes glowing so bright the stone cracked. The beast reared back, bellowing so loud the desert itself quaked. Ethan raised his knife not at the girl, not at himself, but at the beast. His voice shook the silence. Take me, but you leave her. That's the only deal. The girl cried out, her voice breaking. No, don't. But it was too late. The altar blazed, chains snapping off her wrists like glass shattering. She fell to the ground, free at last, but screaming in horror as Ethan's body was wrapped in coils of fire. The beast roared in triumph, its claws wrapping around him, dragging him toward the pit. Heat seared his skin, his knife glowing red in his grip. The hunters erupted into wild cheers, their chant returning with thunder. Blood for the beast, blood for the beast. The girl crawled to the edge of the altar, reaching out, her silver eyes wide with terror. Ethan, no. Ethan twisted his head just enough to meet her gaze one last time. His voice was hoarse, but steady. Live. That's my choice. The beast dragged him closer, fire licking at his body. The pit roared like a furnace opening to swallow him whole. The altar cracked, pieces falling into the flames below. The desert shook as if the world itself was about to collapse. And then Ethan lifted his knife. His eyes burned with defiance, his hand steady despite the fire tearing at him. He aimed not at himself, not at her, but at the glowing ember inside the beast's chest. And with a roar of his own, he struck. The knife struck deep. Ethan's blade pierced straight into the glowing ember inside the beast's chest. For a heartbeat, time froze. The hunters fell silent. The girl gasped, her chains lying broken at her side. Then the world exploded. The beast let out a roar so loud it cracked the sky. Flames shot upward like spears, painting the desert red. The altar split apart under Ethan's feet, glowing veins of fire racing across the stone. The hunters stumbled back, some dropping their spears, others covering their ears as the roar tore through their minds. Their chants broke into screams of terror. Ethan's arm shook, the knife still buried in the ember. Heat burned his skin, his vision blurring, but his voice cut through the chaos. "You don't decide who lives, I do." The ember cracked, a blinding light burst out, and the beast shrieked in pain, its massive body convulsed, claws tearing at the air. Smoke poured from its ribs as the fire inside it began to collapse. The girl crawled forward, reaching for him. "Ethan." Her voice shook, but it carried strength now, not just fear. Ethan staggered, pulling the blade free. The ember shattered completely, glowing shards scattering like falling stars. The beast stumbled, its body unraveling, its skull cracked, horns shattering, eyes dimming. With a final, broken howl, the creature collapsed backward into the pit. Fire swallowed it whole. The altar trembled, runes fading to ash. Then, with a thunderous crack, the stone broke apart, sinking into the earth. The pit sealed shut, leaving only silence. The desert was still. The hunters stared in shock. Their ritual was broken. Their god was gone. Some fell to their knees, wailing. Others fled into the dunes, their torches vanishing one by one. Ethan swayed on his feet, blood dripping from his wounds, smoke rising from his scorched clothes. He felt the weight of the world press down on him. His knees buckled but gentle. Hands caught him. The girl knelt beside him, her silver eyes wide with awe. Her voice trembled. "You survived. No one ever." Ethan gave a weak smile. "Guess there's a first time for everything." She pressed her forehead to his, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You broke the ritual. You destroyed the beast." His vision blurred, but his grip on her wrist was firm. "I told you, I wouldn't leave you." The hunter's leader, still standing, lowered his horned mask. His voice was broken, trembling with disbelief. "Impossible. The ritual was eternal." Ethan turned his head, glaring at him through the haze of pain. His words were hoarse, but filled with iron. "Nothing's eternal. Not fear. Not gods. Not monsters." The leader stumbled back, his mask slipping from his hands. The girl's chains, now nothing but ash, crumbled between her fingers. She looked at Ethan with a new fire in her eyes. "You are not just a man. You are something more." He shook his head faintly. "No, I'm just human." The desert wind rose, carrying away the smoke and ash. The broken altar lay silent, nothing left but cracked stone and scorched earth. The girl helped Ethan to his feet, her arm steady around him despite her trembling frame. The moon shone down on them, silver light washing away the darkness. For the first time, there were no drums, no chants, only quiet. Ethan looked out over the ruins, then at her. "What now?" She held his hand tightly, her silver eyes still wet with tears. "Now, you belong to us. You broke our curse. You are bound to me." Ethan gave a tired laugh, shaking his head. "Figures." But when she leaned closer, pressing her forehead to his again, her voice was softer. "You saved me. You saved all of us." The desert was still broken and burned, but in that moment, standing together in the moonlight, Ethan knew one truth. Sometimes survival wasn't about running. Sometimes it was about standing, defying, and breaking the chains no one else could. And tonight, a human had done what no one ever believed possible. Ending hook. The ritual was broken. The beast was gone. But the bond between Ethan and the alien girl had only just begun. Asterisk.